The state of Vermont charged Jose Pazos with first-degree murder, which carries a presumptive term of 35 years imprisonment to life imprisonment. We also charged Mr. Pazos with a felony charge of kidnapping, a felony charge of burglary, and a felony charge of the aggravated operation without an owner's consent, Ms. Smith's motor vehicle. The evidence that supports the state's charges is as follows. On or about October the 14th into October the 15th, it's alleged that Mr. Pazos gained entry into Kathleen Smith's house on Park Street in Burlington. Mr. Pazos' entry into this house was neither privileged nor was he given permission by Ms. Smith or anyone else. Inside the house, at some point in time, Ms. Smith was bound by Mr. Pazos. Her hands were tied behind her back with rope. Her fingers were duct taped. On her body was a wire that had a wooden handle attached to it. The wire was found on her back. The assistant medical examiner for the state of Vermont has ruled that the cause of death of Ms. Smith was wounds to her neck, presumably from a knife. At some point in time, Mr. Pazos is alleged to have left the residence, taken Ms. Smith's car without her permission, and left the area. That car was later recovered 65 miles south in Hancock, Vermont. 6 miles from that site, Mr. Pazos was located and taken into custody by members of the Burlington Police Department. At this time, I'm asking Lieutenant Morrison to address the meeting.
Thank you and good afternoon. As the initial investigative phase of this case comes to a close, we continue to extend our support to Kathleen Smith's family and friends and the community as a whole in the wake of this tragedy. The news we announced today would not be possible without the tenacity and skill of a host of law enforcement professionals, beginning with our own investigators here at BPD, led by Detective Paul Petralia, Sergeant Sean Burke, and Lieutenant Tim Charland. Dozens of men and women from the Burlington Police Department participated in this exhaustive investigation. We were supported by investigators and resources from a number of agencies, including the Vermont State Police, the Vermont Forensic Laboratory, the University of Vermont Police Services, the Essex Police, the South Burlington Police, the Chittenden Unit for Special Investigations, the Vermont Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, the United States Marshal Service, the FBI, the New York State Police Crime Lab, the Chittenden County State's Attorney's Office, and Middlebury College Security. A short time ago, 45-year-old Jose Pazos, a transient residing in the woods of Burlington, was arraigned on charges for the murder of Kathleen Smith of Burlington. There are countless questions regarding this case that are undoubtedly on the minds of many in our community. Mr. Donovan explained many of the pieces of evidence that we have regarding this case and that support the charges against Mr. Pazos. A few other points that we'd like to share. We believe that this attack was premeditated and that Kathleen Smith was the specific target. Mr. Pazos had been reported to be a transient living in Burlington. We believe that he was most recently living at a makeshift camp in the woods behind the Shell Station and the Cumberland Farms on Riverside Avenue. Video surveillance footage from nearby businesses put Mr. Pazos in that area on October 13th. This is contrary to Mr. Pazos' statement to investigators that he had been camping in the woods in the area near the Middlebury Snow Bowl for several weeks. Pazos was acquainted with Ms. Smith for over 10 years. He was known to harbor a grudge against Kathleen Smith relative to a dispute from many years ago. Additionally, Pazos had ongoing contact with Ms. Smith via Facebook. Mr. Donovan outlined the physical evidence in this case, and as we said previously, it is significant. The Burlington Police Department remains mindful of the concern felt by our entire community in the wake of this tragedy. We realize that providing additional details may amplify that unease. Each day, we continue our important work to keep the community safe on a variety of levels. We will continue to work with our partners at Women Helping Battered Women, the Women's Rape Crisis Center, and other key advocacy agencies on the critical topic of violence against women. Despite Mr. Pazos' arraignment today, this investigation continues, and a host of additional evidence is still being processed while new evidence is still being sought. Anyone who may have information relating to this case or regarding Mr. Pazos' whereabouts or movements between October 11th and October 23rd is asked to contact the Burlington Police Department tip line at 540-2222. At this time, Mr. Donovan and Chief Shirling are available to take questions from the media.